Hello, everyone. Welcome to Reread Business Books. I am Jackie.
And I'm April.
And we are in Raleigh, Durham, North Carolina. We created this group out of our love of reading personal development books and business books and wanted to share them with all of you in hopes to inspire you with a nugget or two along the way. And this month we were reading The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates.
Yes. So this book, had it been on the shelf and advertised in a particular way about what the contents really meant, we probably wouldn't have picked it up. I'm glad we did. More about that later. But the reason why we chose to pick The Moment of Lift by Melinda Gates was, first of all, we wanted to expand our horizons this year in general. And we also wanted to focus on more biographical accounts, and we wanted to emphasize more women writers. So happens that March this month was also Women's History Month. So we thought, what a great way to shine the light on women's issues than to pick up this book and read it. The cover just says how empowering women changes the world. I had really no idea what it was really going to be about, but we'll get into that in a little bit. How this pertains to business, after all, this is We Read Business Books.
I know. So yeah, why did we pick this, The Moment of Lift?
Exactly.
How empowering women changes the world.
So I feel that as entrepreneurs, Jackie and I are both entrepreneurs. We have our own businesses, and which is why we read business books, right?
Right.
Just to remind you, this is the reason why we started the group anyway. As entrepreneurs, we get into business because we feel like we can do a better job at making the widget, producing the widget, selling the widget, or whatever it is than the rest of the industry can. And when you own a business, you have an opportunity to not just make that widget, sell that widget, service that widget better, but you can also use your business as an agent for change to make a difference in your community and the people around you and in the world. Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is now just Gates Foundation.
Right. Yeah.
Melinda's no longer there. Side note, I did a little little research. She left in 24, and now she has Pivotal Ventures, which is she's continuing her work in this. But Microsoft, Bill Gates, he did a really great thing, not just producing software that changed the world and democratized computer and technology, but by opening up that foundation, he was able to make, and then Melinda as well, make a huge, gigantic impact on issues in the world. And I feel like that is a business motive. Right. So I can connect, even though this book is tough and it's hard, I feel like we can tie that into the fabric of a business book.
Yeah. So let's just back up a second here, and we'll tell you a little bit about the summary. But it was an interesting pick. We are trying to pick some books that are not as typical that we've done in the past. But I'll just read a little summary about The Moment of Lift if you're not familiar. It's a powerful and deeply personal look at Melinda French Gates' journey from business leader to global philanthropist through her work with the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which now is just the Gates Foundation. She shares eye-opening stories from around the world highlighting the systematic challenges women face and how lifting women up transforms entire communities. What makes this book especially impactful is that it's not just about doing good, it's about doing the hard work of understanding. Melinda invites us into her own evolution, questioning her assumptions, confronting cultural biases, navigating the tension between her values, spirituality, and the realities faced by women globally. This isn't surface level inspiration. It's a call to think deeper, lead with empathy, and recognize that meaningful change requires both humility and courage. So that being said, we really didn't know what we were getting ourselves into.
Yeah. I'll just say this is the hardest, most deeply personally challenging book that I've ever read. It's sort of like, I felt like, wow, I'm being forced into looking at like a horror film or a horrible accident on the side of the road that I don't want to look at, because she gets into, she does not spare words or images around the significant atrocities and horrors that happen to little girls and women in very poor countries.
Right.
It's like, we can't get into that for this purpose. I feel like it's too graphic. But and with that being said, even though it was hard to look at, and I felt like I was being forced into looking at it, I'm glad I did because it really heightened my awareness about these issues. And really, I mean, it has changed me deeply into feeling more empathy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, because,
Absolutely.
I've not done global missions. I've not done Doctors Without Borders or peacekeeping missions or anything like that. I know you've done in the Skid Row and you do your church missions and feeding the homeless and things like that. And I know that has made a big impact on you. I've not personally done those kinds of things. So this was like getting you there, like you felt like you were there.
Let's just go over some of the topics you're referring to without going into all the details. So her foundation, through her own exploration and wanting to make some change in the world, some of the topics that she covers, mostly developing countries. She talks about empowering mothers, so maternal and newborn health, family planning, girls in schools and education, unpaid work and the value of that, women that do the work at home versus being paid for their work outside the home. She also touches on child marriage, women in agriculture. A lot of these are, in developing countries, some of these topics are deeply I don't know what to say, but they're true issues that need to be challenged.
That are really rooted in
traditions and cultures in other countries. She also she sort of turns it though into women in the workplace. So not only that, but then also how could we sort of think through things on, in the United States and in our life here. And then chapter 9, the lift coming together, then she pulls it all together within her epilogue and her afterward, and then she has also some resources in here too. So in her work overseas in developing countries, it is quite alarming, and these are things that I think you hear maybe sound bites on the news, or you might hear them of a some kind of news program or something like that, but then they're not really discussed. So she really highlights how deeply personal and how she sort of dug into these topics. So that's where it's quite eye-opening.
It really challenges the notion that, privileged Westerners have about, well, why don't they just get an education? Why don't they just, do better for themselves? Well, first of all, education is a pure luxury in these countries if it's available at all. And also, she followed around a woman one day that was on her feet for 17 hours straight, just trying to put food on the table.
Right.
I mean, you don't have time. If you are walking 5 miles to fetch water and carry it back on your head, and then you have to go into your field and pick beans and sort them, and then you're cooking food over an open fire.
Meanwhile, taking care of the kids, maybe even breastfeeding at the same time. I mean, it was just
So when are you going to school? When are you going to get an education?
Oh, it's
some of these issues are just really hard, and it takes outside help. It takes movements and missions, and it takes money and foundations and people who really, really care about.
Well, let's go into a couple takeaways. So a couple major takeaways that I had was also, so we mentioned a little bit about this. So one of my major takeaways was lifting women lifts everyone. So she quotes in here, when you lift up women, you lift up humanity, which also, she shows how education, healthcare, financial opportunities, helping entire families. So when women come together and then they have those kinds of opportunities to just sort of see hope and sort of piece it together, they are able to then provide a better situation for their kids. And it's really when you come together as a community. So she talks about that community and connection. And one of her examples was she started, part of her mission with the foundation was in one direction, and she found that without a true understanding of that culture, and some of the norms within their society, that wasn't going to happen. They ended up turning it into a different direction, but she realized by switching the mission, that is what's going to help the other side of what they were truly there for, because they needed, these women needed a place to go. They needed to be able to talk through, the issues and the challenges that they were having. So by switching focus and understanding them, they were able to switch and achieve that goal. The other one, growth requires challenging your own perspective. So just like I said in that example, she went into it with one direction. She knew that she wanted to do something, but in the book, she does go into sort of her thought process and what was challenging her in her personal life, coming from a completely different world away from these folks that she was there to help. And then also her frame of mind from her upbringing. So it's her religion, all the things. So she really took it inside and tried to figure out, what would be best, and really tried to develop that empathy and figure out what would be the best to help. So those were my two biggest things.
Yeah. It's definitely a masterclass in empathy, and learning instead of coming with a solution,
right? Yeah.
Finding out what the problem is first. She didn't go out there saying, well, we're going to save these people and make things better and just build schools.
Yeah, just give them the stuff.
Yeah, no. Because that would have been, completely.
And it didn't work.
Yeah, but really boots on the ground, integrating themselves with the community to really, truly understand and listening to the stories of these women and what really would make a difference. And that for me was, a major thing. The other thing that this wasn't the point of the book, but this is what it did for me, is it makes, you face your own privilege, going like, wow, I'm so incredibly lucky that I was born here.
Yeah.
And like, I feel like, I've taken, I think all of us do, we take it for granted that, we don't get sold when we're 10 years old to be a child bride, that we have access to contraceptives and we can decide when we marry, who we want to marry, when we have children. We have no problem accessing colleges and education. Not a matter of if you get to go to school. It's like, which one do you want to go to?
Right. Yeah. It's amazing because while I was reading this, or I was listening to it and reading, because, that's what I do. Yeah. Sometimes I was like, wait, when was this written? It was so challenging, like, to just think of that some of these circumstances are continuing in the world that we live in today. But it was hopeful, and it was, it made me feel that there are some things to do. And I think we'll get into that, that there are people working on that mission, and there are things that we can do here also to lift up the women in our own communities and culture, and that there is other things to do in the world as well.
So on that note, like in her afterwards, so she wrote this book in 2019 originally. And then there was, it created a huge impact, as it would. And people were deeply moved, as you would be when you read this. And they wanted to know, well, what can we do? And, she says, like, start at home.
Yeah. Right.
Start at home with gender equity. Who's doing what tasks? And is it just because it's a gender normative role for them to do? How can we make just, home chores more equitable in families? The other thing that she recommended, and I went to it right away, was called Gender Fair. It's an app or a website, and you can check to see which businesses have women-friendly policies. So, for example, she mentions that in the United States, we're one of, I think, only 7 countries in the world that do not have paid leave for mothers when they have children.
Paid family leave.
Paid family leave.
And it shouldn't only be for women. It should also be for men as well, as paid family leave. So then it's equitable, it's equal across the table, that it's not just the women leaving work. It can also be men.
Instead, we get disability pay.
Right.
So which is, 60% of our wages or something like that is typically one of the top things that you would see, as a benefit to working. So Gender Fair vets these companies with their women-friendly policy. So you can go to genderfair.com and you can look at colleges, universities, nonprofit, and businesses to see like how they rank. Yeah. She recommends vote with your dollars. It's like, if you have the ability and the passion or the desire to volunteer, to give of your time, your resources to support organizations that are contributing to the cause to help uplift women in your area and across the world, and please do that.
Yep, you hit all the bullet points here. Promote equity at home, explore gender bias at work, invite women into your network. So making community. She has a quote from Richard Rohr that says, the only people who handle power well are those who can equally let go of it and share it. That's awesome. I believe the best use of power is to share it widely. So that is a quote from her as well. Support an organization doing good work on gender issues. Also speak out with your spending and do your research.
Yeah.
So
I'm telling you, like, this book is hard to forget.
Yeah, no, it was very meaningful for the month of
Yeah.
March. And, you know, we have a business networking, a women's networking group together. So, you know, it's always top of mind. You know, we're always coming together. And this is one of the things where we were thinking through the books, and female author, she's doing good stuff, but it was impactful. It was good.
So check out Pivotal Ventures. I believe that was the name. Yep, Pivotal Ventures. And they recently awarded $250 million in grants to promote women's health, women at work, and mental health and
That's
women in
awesome.
tech.
Yeah.
So check out what Melinda is doing in her own philanthropic foundation.
I know. So yeah, there's some great resources out there.
So we are deciding on what we're going to read next. So stay tuned. Please let us know, what are you reading? What has inspired you? What do you recommend that we put on our list?
Absolutely. So until then, stay tuned for our next book for the month of April.
April.
Stay tuned. We will let you know what that next book is. And thank you for watching.